Suck it up. To endure something painful, unpleasant, or otherwise dissatisfactory. To deal with or recover from some hardship or stress. Suck it up. Endure something painful.
What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Suck It Up Man podcast. And today we're going to be talking about a very serious topic, something that you've dealt with firsthand, Josh, something that I haven't dealt with and hopefully won't deal with, which is divorce, and specifically divorced dads. We're going to be having a guest on a little bit that's also unfortunately dealt with this. And I'm just going to tell a quick story. Obviously, this is something that we did together a couple years ago. I don't think I've told it on the air, so just going to talk about it. It's going to really speak to really the fact that a divorced dad will do anything for his kids. This was a couple years ago. This was 2024 WSOP. And as some of you may know, we are there pretty much every year for the whole month of June. The series starts at the end of May and it runs through the middle of July. And we're pretty much there for like the majority of the middle. So all of June, we book a house and we're there for probably about 3 or 4 weeks at this point. It's maybe the 27th, 28th, and you're stuck probably, what, maybe 25K at this point?
Yeah, I think I was stuck around 28K, somewhere around there. It was just shy of $30,000 because I remember thinking I lost a brand new car. Vegas, by the way, is the only city in the world where, as excited as you are to arrive, you're just as excited when you leave in some instances. And this was definitely playing a factor in this story. But yes, I was stuck piles, absolute piles. It didn't matter what happened. I was just stuck and I was not going to get unstuck, period, end of story.
I was also stuck probably about 3 or 4K at that point, which was actually the best result in the house, as sad as that may sound. But so I wasn't stuck nearly as much as you, but I was still very over Vegas. You know, you're there for 3 or 4 weeks. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, you're playing really long hours every day. You're getting to a tournament at maybe 9, 10 in the morning. Day ones will last 12 hours. And if you're fortunate enough to bag, you come back the next day and it's all over again. So at this point, I'm pretty much over it. I believe it was a Friday and we both planned the day off. We have maybe 3 or 4 days left in this house, and we were watching a movie. I want to say we were watching Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
A movie that I had never seen, by the way, and Wayne could not believe I had never seen it. So, of course, Wayne's like, we got to get stoned and watch this movie. So you take a few gummies, because I had gummies laying around, and then I go smoke a big fat doob. Go on.
Yep, a few gummies. Well, you pop gummies like they're Skittles because your tolerance is insane. For me, usually a quarter or a half of a 10 milligram gummy will suffice. So I think I maybe took a half because a couple gummies, I don't know, I probably would have died or something. But so I take a half a gummy. You smoked a couple blunts, and we're halfway through the movie, and I could tell something is bothering you. Besides for the fact that you're down 25K, but I could just tell that you're just not in the best place mentally. And we end up talking, and you obviously tell me about your kid and how your ex-wife obviously does everything in her power to keep you from having any kind of relationship with your kid, who now lives in Sacramento. And you were just saying, man, if I can just hear back from Bean, your kid's nickname, if I can just hear back from Bean, it will make everything a lot better. It will ease the burden or ease the sting a bit of being down.
Yeah, I was saying it would be the one solace I could have for the whole summer is, hey, I might have lost $30,000, but I heard back from my kid, because the last communication I had from my kid almost sounded like a cry for help. And yeah, my ex-wife, I think the last things she told my current wife was that her whole mission in life was just to ruin the relationship that her daughter had with her father, which she's a redhead, so she meant it. But in any case, I'm sitting here down 30 grand going, well, at least if I can talk to my kid, take her out to lunch, that'll be worth $30,000 to me. So go on.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm also stuck, as I mentioned, and I'm not really feeling like playing. I think at that point, we maybe talked about, oh, there's some kind of tournament tomorrow, and if we go top 10 or something, we can get unstuck for the trip. But honestly, I didn't really feel like playing. I was just kind of over Vegas at that point, but we still paid for the Airbnb and we still had like 3 or 4 days left. So you mentioned the whole thing about hearing back from Bean and being able to see her and whatnot. And I just say, well, why don't we go see her? I mean, Sacramento, it's about an 8 hour drive from Vegas, and it's probably like 1 or 2 in the afternoon at this point. And I say, let's
I
do
was
it.
packed 30 minutes later. I was fully packed. And I remember you took like 2 hours to pack, probably because you were so stoned. But I was like, I was ready to go in 30 minutes. I was like, what is taking him so long? And here you are, folding all your clothes nice and neat, taking them off the hangers. But then I remembered whenever we travel together, that's the first thing you do is you unpack and you take a little while. But I remember I was ready to go in 30 minutes, and I just remember being like, okay, it's going to take my friend 2 hours, but that's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. I was excited about the journey. So go on.
Yeah, so it's 8 hours to get to Sacramento, and by the time I pack everything, it's probably 4 or 5 o'clock. And I say 8 hours at this point is kind of rough. So I think earlier, a couple months prior, my wife and I actually ended up going to Yosemite, and from San Diego, it's about the same drive, about 8 hours, and we actually kind of got up to a certain point, which was actually going to be similar to the halfway point of our trip. So I said, okay, let's just knock out 4 hours today. We can get some sleep and then wake up refreshed and knock out the other 4 hours. So that's what we did. And you had told me that obviously the relationship with your ex-wife and you was not great. As you mentioned, she's basically doing everything in her power to make sure you have no kind of relationship with your kid at all. So we have to essentially deviate a plan or devise a plan here of what are we going to do, right? Because we can't just like knock on the door. If she sees you, she's probably going to call the cops or throw
I thought
something at
that there
you.
was a legit chance that if she saw me knocking at the door, she would just grab her pistol and shoot me. I didn't put it at a very high chance, but I figured it's somewhere between 1 and 3%. And I figured, why take the chance? that that does not end well for anybody. It doesn't end well for me, for my kid, doesn't end well for her, doesn't end well for my current wife. So why take the 1 to 3% chance? Even though that I still swear that probably 1 to 3% is pretty accurate.
Yeah, so you want to fade the one outer. You don't want to have to deal with that. So we didn't want to go that route. So we have to devise a plan here. And this was before the last election, right? So California is of course a blue state, and we say, okay, why don't we try to find some Joe Biden paraphernalia and try to see if we can pretend that I'm with the Joe Biden campaign reelection campaign. So we look up a local Walmart. It says that they did have some stuff, but then we get there and we find out they don't have any stuff. So we walk out and we're kind of thinking, man, what are we going to do now? And there's actually a stand out front of this Walmart, and it's the local children's hospital. And you say, okay, well, let's just go with this. So you ended up buying a bunch of stuff. You bought like a bag and a couple little keychains and some other
Yeah, I
stuff,
gave them
right?
$20 in donations for 2 bags and keychains and a folder and what their whole mission statement was, because this is thinking on the fly. But yes, I buy all this stuff and I go, we're going to use this, Wayne.
Yep. Yep. So you do that. And then we get about a block away from your ex-wife's house. And and I'll take a step back. You actually had to hire a private investigator, right? Because they had recently just moved into this place. You knew their previous address, but you didn't know this place. So you actually had to hire a private investigator to look up
Yeah,
where they lived.
and I hired a private investigator because my dad, when he went to his local gun club, the former best friend of the family said to my father, "Hey, did you know Bean is homeless?" And so when my dad called me that night and said, "Hey, I heard, from a gentleman by the name of Chuck, told me Bean is homeless." That was at 9 o'clock that night, on a Monday night. And Tuesday morning, I hired a private investigator because I said, I need you to find out if my daughter's homeless or not. And he was like, "Hey, buddy, I got to tell you, if she's homeless, it's really hard to find her." And I said, "Yeah." I said, I understand that. I said, "First, I need to find out if she's homeless." So it cost me, I want to say it was probably like $1,000 or so. Maybe it was 800. But I found out where she lived. But yeah, because her mother convinced her I'm an abusive person and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I had to hire a private investigator because I heard my kid was homeless,
Hmm.
and her
Yeah.
mother would not give me the address of where they live.
Yeah, so even finding where they lived was a chore and a half, having to go through all those steps. So we're about a block away from your presumed ex-wife's house where your kid's living. And you also have I don't even remember what you call it, but you have like a stuffed animal that Bean made when she was a kid, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was a stuffed axolotl. She actually made two of them. And I don't know why, but when I was packing my bag for Vegas, it's one of those weird dad things you do where you're packing your bag and you're like, "Hey, I want this to think about my kid." And I just packed it with me. And it dawned on me, like during the trip when we decided to drive up to Sacramento, this was the whole purpose of me bringing this axolotl, something in the universe. You guys know me, I'm kind of a whatever, a spiritual guide. I give great advice. I'm a witchy woo woo guy. But when the universe tells me to pack a axolotl that was made by my kid, I did it. And so I put it in the bag for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the plan is for me to knock on the door and basically pretend that I'm looking for donations for the local children's hospital. And then I have this bag with the stuffed animal in it, and I'm going to hand it to her. And then you told me that without a shadow of a doubt, even though you haven't seen your kid in a couple of years at this point, once she sees this stuffed animal, she's going to instantly know that it came from you, right? So that's the
Yeah,
plan. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
there's two bags, by the way. So I wrote a handwritten note in the bag that had the axolotl. The other bag was all the charity stuff. So the plan was if my ex-wife opens the door, and the reason why we instituted this plan is because, again, the last communication I got from my kid was that it sounded like she might need help, like she was in an abusive situation or in a bad situation. And I told that to you, Wayne. I said, there's probably a 60% chance we're just going to take my daughter out to lunch. So there's probably a 5% to 10% chance we're going to pack up her shit and load her in the car. And I said, and then there's probably a 30% chance she says, "Eat shit and bark at the moon, dad." And I said, but
Hmm.
knowing that there is a small percentage chance that she might be crying out for help, let's do this in an incognito way in case, her abuser, whoever her abuser may be, is there. So yeah, one bag had all the charity stuff, and then the other bag had a handwritten note for me saying, "Hey, meet me in the school parking lot," which was in their back residence, like it was a block away, and just tell your mom you're going for a walk, and we can talk.
Hmm.
And the other bag had all the charity stuff. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so despite the fact that I've mentioned this before, I've actually worked in door-to-door sales years ago in New York, and I actually worked there for almost 2 years and was pretty good at it at one point. Despite that, I'm actually scared shitless at this point because of all the stories you've told me about your ex-wife, and I don't know what the hell is going to happen. So, I get up to the door, I knock, and I'm expecting to see your ex-wife, and no, it's actually your kid who opens the door, and I think it's your kid because I've seen her a couple times, and then I do determine it is your kid, and I say, "Hey, I'm Wayne with the local, I think it's called Rady Children's Hospital here," and she just kind of looks confused, and I just say, "You know what? I'm just gonna scrap my pitch." And I just basically hand her the bag with the axolotl in it. And she just kind of looks at it and she's like not sure what to do. And she looks down and she sees this thing and she like kind of looks at me for a second, and then she goes, and then I think she's gonna be like, "Oh my god, like Josh is, my dad's here, like let's do it." But no, she basically starts screaming and she says, "How did he find us? He's such a stalker. Like we moved to this place and we didn't tell him we lived here, and how did he find us?" And then she's like screaming at the top of her lungs, and I'm like, in my 30s here, and there's like an 18-year-old kid here. She's like 19 at this point, screaming, and I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm gonna get the cops called on me because I don't know what the neighbors are gonna think. And she starts screaming, and I basically just say, "Hey, read the note." your dad came a long way, like he wants to see you, and she basically just says, "Go away, get out." And I just kind of pack up my things and run along, and I see you, right behind my car where we parked, and I can just see kind of the look on your face, and obviously that's not the reaction
Oh
that
yeah,
I wanted
heartbroken,
to
bro.
get. Yeah, that's not the reaction I was hoping we got, but I was also hoping at that point, like, okay, maybe she'll calm down, she'll see the note, she'll meet us at the school, and yeah, you could kind of take it from there.
Yeah, we went to the school and I meditated for 2 hours. And
Yeah,
then
and
after 2 hours, we went back to the house where we determined she must have been home all by herself. Otherwise, because even when I was meditating at the school, I thought there's still a percentage chance her mom can drive by with a shotgun. But I figured at this point, I'm meditating. I'm going to let things happen however they happen. If somebody pulls up with a shotgun and they see somebody meditating, I figured the chances would be really, really low. But in any case, I thought it was more likely that the cops were going to show up. And when the cops didn't show up, yeah, after meditating for 2 hours, I figured, okay, her mom and new husband and family or whatever must be away for the weekend. So I went up and knocked on the door and no response. And then we
yeah.
drove back to Vegas.
So essentially, we drove 16 hours to talk to Josh's kid, and I got screamed at for 1 minute, and it didn't work out. And I felt awful about it. But as we were driving back, I don't really think we said much, but I was thinking in my head, even though we didn't get the response that we wanted, I was happy that we did it, and I was happy that we made the attempt. You mentioned on one of the podcasts the other day that you miss all of the shots you don't take, right? So we didn't get the result we wanted, but we gave it our best effort. You made contact, or you didn't make contact. Indirectly, you did through me. So we tried our best. It didn't work out, and it's now the end of 2025. So I've talked to your kid more recently than you, which was 14, 15 months ago, and
Yeah,
we're
June
hoping
20th.
that eventually. Yeah, we're hoping that eventually she'll come to her senses and realize that you should have a relationship with your father, and that just kind of speaks to the volumes that a divorced dad will do to really see his kid. And obviously this is something that you know a lot about going through your divorce, and we're going to talk to Jeff here in a little bit about his divorce. And I hope I don't have to deal with it, but I've heard from you and your brother and other people, it's obviously one of the most difficult and painful things you'll deal with in your entire life.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and bring up Jeff because I do have an interesting perspective on divorced dads, especially when it comes with their kids. And I was having this discussion with another gentleman who's in the process of going through divorce, my brother, after 30 years. And he goes, my kid is not talking to me anymore. And I said, well, I said, the good thing, Kevin, is being a divorced dad, it's like a prison sentence. I said, you're in the process of serving a 18 to 36-month sentence based on your history with your kid. And so even though you're starting that process, I said, I'm in year 2 of like a 4 to 10-year sentence where your kid just stops talking to you or you shut down. They don't open up to you anymore. But I think eventually I'm told by other people who've been through this process that eventually the kids do get their heads out of their asses and come back and say, hey, we need some advice, or hey, we should have a relationship. So uh, Jeff, welcome to our podcast. Can you
Hi
tell
guys.
for the audience how many kids you've got and what you do for work, and then what your marriage situation is and stuff like that?
Well, I have 2 children, one from a prior relationship a long time ago. My son is 30, and I have a daughter with my ex-wife, and she is 16 and a half. We're getting into the difficult years now, but she's a good kid. She's smart, and we have a good relationship. I'm a crane operator for a marine construction company. I've been doing that for 26 years now. Same company. Been divorced in 2018 and in the dating arena right now, I guess you could say.
Now, how long were you married for?
I met my ex-wife in 1999. We dated for 8 years and then got married, and we're married for 11 years.
And then you guys have a 16-year-old?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. So your
Yeah.
kid was approximately like 8 or 9 when you went through the divorce. Did you go through something similar to what Josh is now experiencing where
No,
your kid? No, luckily. Okay. So you didn't deal
no,
with that.
no. I've heard of stories similar to Josh's, but I have to be honest, my relationship with my ex-wife is fairly good. It wasn't initially. I think Josh can attest to, maybe because she lives so far away from you, but like first there's a guy told me a long time ago that first there's fire and then there's just smoldering and then there's just a little smoke and then it's all gone away and everything is copacetic. So, but my ex-wife and I, she's already remarried. She got remarried within 3 years. We're we co-parent very well together, and her new husband is great to my daughter, and that's all I care about.
Well, that's really fortunate. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Having a
he's a
good
good guy.
co-parent,
Huh?
I'm sure having a good co-parent
Yeah.
and having somebody else there that with remarried and being somebody that you approve of and things of that nature, that's something a lot of guys can be, a little jealous of,
Yeah. No,
honestly.
I never went through the jealousy phase with her husband. He just was always a really nice guy, and he treated my
No, I
daughter.
mean other guys who are divorced dads would be jealous of you of having a situation where their ex-wife is rational to deal with and not, just
Yeah. So
pissed off at the world the whole time.
let me tell you a short little story that so back in, I want to say, I don't remember, I have a high school friend of mine, been friends since school. I'm 57, and he got divorced, I want to say in 2010. His first and only wife, kids together. And the jealousy he had of a guy that she would date, and if they wanted to make friends with his kids. And I kept trying to, as I was currently married still, I says, maybe you should stop like trying to push this guy away from your child or your children. Like maybe try to like accept it. Nothing can be wrong with that person wanting to be friends with your kids unless
Yeah.
he's like a creeper. But I don't see this happening. And he would always tell me how painful divorce was compared to losing his dad. And I just thought, like, man, I just don't see it. Losing a loved one has got to be the worst. Well, I lost my dad in 2017 in March, and June, my wife was asking me for a divorce, and it crushed me. It's the worst, the worst. I don't know how your divorce went, but I didn't want any part of it. But
Yeah, mine was, divorces are the worst part
it's horrible.
there's something I don't envy upon anyone,
No,
and there's different ways, like when men ask for divorce, usually men are done with the relationship many years prior to, but a lot of times we found out, I think it's like 7 out of 10 divorces are asked by the women
I think it's higher.
nowadays. Yeah,
I
you
think
think it's higher?
yeah.
Yeah, and so it's real interesting that's the situation, that a lot of women ask for divorce, and where because men will put up with a lot more stuff. We don't mind, like, we do mind not being happy for like a year or two, but we'll put up with this shit for a long time because we're like, well, we just got to put up with it.
I was never, I was never one that wanted to blame my ex for the divorce, for all of it. Like I played my part too, but
Sure.
there was a lot of things that I don't want to go into that really hurt me during the divorce process. That was
What would
really
you
hard pill for me to swallow.
What would you say to our listeners who might be going through the divorce process, as far as having a teenager, or somebody who's pre-teens? Like, what would you say are some of the advice you'd give to be able to like co-parent so effectively? Because I think that's something. I mean, obviously, it takes two people, but yeah, what would you advise to people who are going through that process?
Think about the kid. Do not think about your ex. Just think about your child and what's best for that child. No amount of bad mouthing is going to get that child to side with you. It's just terrible. Put the kid first. It's always the kid first, and then deal with the situation with your ex later. Don't argue in front of her. Like, I had lots of arguments with my ex, but it was never in front of our daughter. It was always on the phone, aside from her, and just make sure that that kid knows that you guys are just trying to do the best you can. I would
Yeah.
actually say that me and my ex are friends still. I mean, I don't think we were when we were getting divorced, but I think that all that pain left me, which was mostly my pain, I think, but maybe it was hers. I don't know. But like, that eventually goes away.
Well, so it sounds like you had a great attitude. I mean, obviously you were very upset about the divorce and maybe shocked to hear that your wife wanted a divorce, but it sounds like you had a great attitude, making
Well,
sure that your kid was taken care of. Like, where did this come from? Did you have some other people in your life that got divorced and they gave that advice to you, or did that just come naturally to you as a father?
no, I think that like, you just want to make sure that you know that your kid knows that they're not the problem. Like, there's they're the priority, you know. And my mom and dad were married 50 years until my dad died. And so I just really value marriage, but I think that stuff is slowly dying.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think that with technology, with the dating scene, with all the apps on the phones, and it's not like who can I date? It's who can I date right now. So I think that that is damaging it. I think that
Kind of
alone.
like having way too many choices or too much
Very much true.
availability
Yes.
is causing way too many issues,
I
and
mean,
I can't remember who was mentioning it to me where they used to say, if you're in a rural town, like I live in, Scandia, Michigan or Marquette, Michigan, population 30,000, and you're not used to seeing, tens all the time or whatever the case may be on a scale of 1 to 10, where in a bigger city, you see that all the time. So when you do see somebody who's more attractive in a small rural area, they're going to end up soaking up, they're going to have their pick of the litter basically. So it makes, for example, women have the pick of the litter when they travel and they hit these hookup apps and things of that nature where men don't. You follow me? So it's like when you're promoting that, yeah, I think the decline of marriage and the value of marriage is going to go down quite significantly.
I think that like it's always the woman who decides. It always is, and that's the way it's probably always going to be. Men don't have the choice. Women do. I heard a statistic of like something to do with like either Tinder or whatever dating app it was. Like, men will swipe right on 200 women before one of them will swipe right on him. 200.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Wayne and I were talking about that.
I've
Isn't
heard
that
even more.
crazy?
I've heard even
Well,
more. Yeah, I saw something like 1,000 before the guy even gets a match. And then when you get a match, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually going to go on a date. It just means that you're matched. And then, the woman might not respond. Or I know like Bumble, where we interviewed my friend Mark, he met on Bumble with his now wife. Bumble is different in that the woman actually has to message first, right? So you might get a match. And then if she decides for whatever reason, oh, I don't like this guy, you get a match, but it doesn't actually go anywhere.
yeah, that's true. I mean, I've been messing around with it for, the better part of 7 years, 6 years, 8 years, whatever it is. And that's 100% true. It really is. And that's not to mention the ones that you understand why they're single. They're nuts. They're nuts. I'm not kidding.
Do you have a nightmare date story for us? We'd love to hear that from even being divorced. Like if you
No,
have a nightmare date story from a dating app, we'd love to hear that story.
I wouldn't say a nightmare, but lots of like, I understand why you're single. So, all right, I have one. So I was
Yes.
working in Duluth. So I'm working in Duluth right now. And so I was on the dating app up there and I matched with this woman. And she was, I don't even want to say what her job was. Let's just say she was in government locally.
Okay.
Okay. Pretty high up locally. So I go to pick her up and it's in this cul-de-sac and it's a really nice house, like really nice house. So I pick her up. I'm like, wow, I might have struck gold here. Pick her up, and she's okay, and she's not too engaging. So we go to this place to eat, and I couldn't wait to get out of that date because she was so boring, like really boring. And like that's a lot of it. What it is these women don't have any personality. Like they just, I don't
Like
know.
when you say boring, were you saying, well, what do you like to do on the weekend? And she's just like, just watch TV.
Well, you ask an open-ended question
Mm-hmm.
to get the, yeah, I like to do this. How about you? Nope. Her answer was, yeah, I like to do that. And that's the end of it right there. Like
Mm-hmm.
no social skills at all. None. And
Wow. Was
within a,
she divorced, or was she just single her whole life, or?
no, and had a couple of children, adopted children. I'm adopted as well. So like, I mean, I didn't think that mattered, but like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was really odd. That was one of the more odd ones.
So where does personality rank for you, right? Because a lot of guys when they're ranking the things that matter to them that they're looking for in a woman, looks are going to typically be like number one or at the top. But what is it for you? Maybe like the top couple things that you're looking for in a potential partner.
Open, bubbly, smart, funny. I think that those things are, it's obviously it's looks first. It is. I don't care. People can say, I don't care about looks. All the women have that on their profile and they're all liars. They're all liars. Because if they weren't, I'd have matched with a lot more of them. So I'm just saying, like, that's just a lie. We're all that way. We look at the person first. That's what we see. For anything else,
How often are you getting catfished where you show up and it's completely like obviously not even close to the person
I don't
that
go
you
on
were?
dates anymore. I haven't been on a date in a long time. I'm kind of seeing somebody right now and
Nice.
considering marriage, and I actually started dating women out of the country. So
Ooh.
for me, yeah, yeah.
We
The
just
re-
talked about
Which
this
country?
recently.
Yeah, we
oh
talked
yeah,
about this with Pingy. Yeah, he's dating a Thai girl because he lives in Thailand,
I'm
and
dating a Colombian girl.
you're dating a Colombian girl, and
Well,
she lives in.
she lives in Colombia, yeah,
Mm. So where did you meet?
on Tinder.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. So this is something we've talked about, right? Because nothing wrong with American women or what have you, but a lot of guys are looking for more of a kind of a traditional wife. And a lot of these countries, whether they're in South America or Asia or what have you, these women tend to have traditional values, I guess, on average, a little bit more than some of the, typical American girls. So yeah, you met on Tinder, and where's it at now? You haven't met in person, or you've done
yeah,
FaceTime
many
calls,
times,
or
many times, many times. Yeah, we
okay.
FaceTime, and yeah, she's been here, I've been there. In
How
fact,
long have you guys been dating?
um, on and off for 4 years,
Okay,
but
that's quite a. That's a
yeah,
good amount of time.
we're going to Punta Cana right after Thanksgiving. I'm going for a week or 5 days.
Gotcha.
She's actually been to Vegas with me, and yeah, she's actually been to the World Series at the Rio. Yeah, no, I'm not lying.
Well, that's good. Now you said you've talked about it with her about marriage.
But yeah, definitely. Well, like I probably would never get married again because I don't see the upside, but obviously that can't happen with a person from another country. You have to be married for them to live here or get
Yeah,
some
in
sort
order
of,
for them, yeah, to get a green card for sure. Yeah.
or go through some sort of special visa process, which is not easy. And that's probably not going to happen. So the only other way is for us to get married. But I've been on and out for 4 years. So I know her like the back of my, but yeah,
So, what do you think is like? Does that ever come into your mind as far as is she dating me so she can get a green card so we can get married? Does that ever pop up in your mind?
I think initially, yeah, but not anymore. No.
Yeah, 4 years is pretty substantial. It's where it's like
Yeah.
you're committed.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're right.
I mean, I'm no catch. Look at me. You guys have seen me. I'm not a 10 or anything, but like,
Well, I mean, but you're a crane operator. Those guys do make good money, you
I
know.
do make decent money, but she doesn't know how much I make. No clue how much
Right.
I make. I've never told her. Not
Well,
once.
that's good.
So
And
did you search her out? Like so you went on a string of maybe bad dates with, I don't know, American women or whatever. Did you search out someone specifically from another country, or did that just kind of happen that way?
No. When you do Tinder, if you pay for the gold package, which is like a 6-month thing, you can set your location to anywhere. And being kind of tired of the American women, I decided like, hmm, let me go and try here. So I did it during the pandemic, and the flood of like 20 women a day at me first. And obviously, at first you're like, wow, this is great. Like, I'm going to have my choice. And look at how beautiful these women are. And then you slowly come back to earth. Like, okay, these women aren't,
a
after
lot of them are
anything.
gold diggers. Yeah.
Yeah. And you really have to sort through it. Like, before I met her, like, it was a lot of that getting through, like, the ones that don't have good intentions.
And how did you sort through the ones that didn't have good intentions? Were there specific questions that you would ask for all of our viewers out there
No,
who might be going through the same process of
use
international
your
women?
use your intuition. Watch out for the ones that want to ask for money, the ones that don't have anything to offer, the ones that never have anything to say. Those go just those go in the trash bin. Just done. Just be done. Don't mess around with them even.
So your current girlfriend from Colombia, you were able to sort her out and figured out that she was a good person at heart.
Yeah. Like it took a long time, lots of talking and lots of trust thing. And she speaks a little bit of English, not pure English. And I'm trying to learn Spanish, obviously. Uh like you have to you just have to suss it out. Use your intuition, you know?
And is she intending on moving here, but she can't
Yeah.
unless you guys get married?
Yeah, that's how
So
it works.
that's been more the topic of conversation lately with dating her, or was that
Well,
something you guys have talked about off and on?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I know another guy who's actually doing it with a Colombian woman, and he's helping me, talking me through like what he's gone through so far. So apparently, it's like an 8-month process of getting that K1 visa and whatnot.
Yeah, when
So
we
you
were
mentioned
talking, go ahead.
So you mentioned the gold package with Tinder where you can pretty much set your location to wherever you want. Now, was Colombia something that you had heard from a friend, or how did you choose Colombia to set your location there?
So I just basically looked. I'm really outing myself here. So I looked up on Google like where are the most beautiful women in the world. So the first one was Venezuela. Well, that's just a shit show. You can't even go there. It's it's utter chaos over there, you know. And then Brazil and then Colombia is right up there. So then it's like I spent a long time like I tried Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Brazil, and you just kind of like figure out like which women are open to going this route, you know. And it was a long. It took a while to narrow down the search.
Now, do you get any pushback from, I mean, maybe you don't care or what have you, but do you get any pushback, like if you tell like friends or maybe your ex-wife, like, hey, I've been chatting with this Colombian girl for 4 years or what? Do you get any kind of negative views from people about that?
I think you get a little bit of. I think it was probably some people that wouldn't say it to your face, but you know what they're saying behind your back, and I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I
Good for
mean,
you.
you
How
guys are
old is she,
professional
if you don't
poker,
mind me asking?
huh?
How old is she?
46.
Oh, so the age is within
Yeah,
realm. Like, yeah, I
yeah,
mean, 11 years at our age is nothing. Like
yeah.
that's so. Have you had any? Yeah, you don't. I wouldn't care what other people would think either. If you have any type of pushback, what does your daughter think?
My daughter has a hard time with her. Doesn't the language barrier is one thing, and she's a little quiet, and my daughter's a little bit standoffish. But I just keep trying to like say there's nothing wrong with her. She just doesn't know the language well enough to like have a decent conversation, and so I just keep trying to like manage the situation when they are together.
I was going to say, I think the new Meta glasses have an AI translator that pop up on the glass
Really?
itself.
No
Yeah.
shit.
So
Wow.
because I advised one of my poker students, see, this is how I always relate poker into real life situations, but I advised one of my poker students to open up his AI and
Mm.
to turn on his Bluetooth and tell it to translate whatever it picked up because he was playing
And that's
games for
crazy.
on a poker game. Yeah, and it can pick up and translate. But
Well,
I
I
think
have
those new Meta glasses have a display on the inside, and you can say translate whatever they're saying. So if your girlfriend
wow.
starts talking in Spanish, it'll pop up in English for your daughter, and then she can respond, and it'll tell her how to say it in Spanish.
That's pretty cool. So I like for anybody that's interested, like I've got a how to, I guess. Maybe I should figure something out and market. Like I have like a way to like start with this, then get this, and then download that, and here's how you can communicate. Like it's all there. If anybody wants to
How to
know.
Date International Women Who Don't Speak a Lick of English. That's the
Yeah,
name of the book, or the name of the posts, or the name of something. I can see it now. Like it could just
yeah,
be a quick 100-page read book. So
it
when a
is.
guy's doing his business in the morning, he reads like 10 pages and he's like, all right, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah. It's not that difficult. It's really not.
Yeah.
And even when like me and my girlfriend are talking, she'll struggle to say something and she'll get the translator out and I'll say, no, don't. We'll be on a FaceTime talk and she'll wanting to like translate it. And I'll say, no, say it to me. That way I can learn. And you'd be surprised how much Spanish you really do know because
Hmm.
there is a lot of similarities there.
My
Yeah.
my first wife was a Latina, so I learned
There you have it.
Spanish.
You
You
know
know,
the
and
fire.
somehow when the sandals come off and they throw them down the hallway, even though you're down the hallway and around the corner, somehow it
Yeah.
just finds you. It turns the corner and still whacks you in the back of your head.
Yeah.
For all of our
Technology's made it a lot
Latino,
easier.
Yeah, it
for all of our
has.
Latino listeners, they all get it. So.
Yeah, technology's made it a lot easier. I mean, I was just in Asia for 3 weeks, and most of the places they spoke pretty good English, but there were some places that didn't. So I have the Google Translate app. There's even on Google, my brother-in-law was showing me where it's called Google Lens, I believe. And there was a couple restaurants we went to where they didn't have an English section, so you can literally just open the Google Lens and like hold it over, and it will translate the words into
Yeah, I
English
know
or
that.
whatever language you want. Yeah.
I know that.
So yeah,
Having been
that would be
yeah,
in your book. That's chapter 3 right there.
having been to
Right?
Colombia, I understand that. So yeah, yeah, yeah. You basically hold it up, and it takes a second, and it sometimes it doesn't make any sense, but that's because like Spanish and English aren't like they don't automatically translate. There's some things that have double meanings or words get put in front of other words. And you're like, that doesn't make any sense. That's right, because say is or see is also yes or if. So it can mean yes or it can mean if. So I just automatically, my brain knows.
What would you say are the 3 best things about dating an international lady who doesn't speak perfect English?
You mean as far as the communication or the
No, just the 3 best things about dating somebody who is from a different country.
well, I think that, boy, I've never really been asked about that. I think that they have different values in country. Like women from Latin America, the family value system is really different than it is here.
So you really like their family value system that they have
I
there,
don't
how
know
they
if I so
value it
much
so much.
I admire it a lot. Like it takes a lot because a lot of these women, the men just leave. Pregnancy, boom, gone. And there's no child support, there's no nothing. These women don't get any help. Now, my girls' kids are older now, but they co-parented. So there was no going through that with her.
Sure.
But I like that. I like to feel that like they care. And then you do feel that. Um the way they talk to you is genuine and I don't know, it's
Like
just
they're more into you versus what they're into in their phone or whatever like they're when they're having a conversation with you, they're talking to you and they're talking deep into you. They're not just having surface conversation.
yes, definitely that.
Yeah, so there's a deeper, more enriched conversation, and you just feel
Yeah.
deeper connected.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this fucking person knows me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that accent, man. Whew, that does it in for me. It does it for me. And they're beautiful. The Colombian women are,
Latino women are the most beautiful women on the planet.
I
You know,
agree.
and my wife is of German descent, so but yeah, no, it's one of those things. Yeah, I get it totally.
Yeah.
Wayne
The
and I have
guys
had
talk
that
about
conversation
the
before.
blonde bombshell. No, no thanks. No.
I think Wayne, isn't your wife from South America? She's from Guyana, isn't she?
She is. You wouldn't consider her Latina though, because it's an English speaking. It's actually the only English speaking country in South America, which is Guyana. So she is from South America. She's not a Latina. They actually consider themselves more West Indian. But I can relate to you, Jeff, though, that yeah, the women from other countries, it's just different. Their family values are different. It's more traditional, as we talked about before. I applaud you. It definitely takes a lot of courage, because I know that some people have told me that they get a lot of pushback for wanting to look elsewhere for love, right? If something's not working, you're doing the same thing over and over again, then it makes sense to try something else out. So I applaud you for trying something else out. And it sounds like she's a keeper, and sounds like it's going to be a long-term thing. So that's great.
Let's hope.
Now, what are the 3 most challenging things that you run into with dating an international lady?
The family value thing is one of the challenging things. Like, they hold so true to making sure the family has everything. And that's a big priority. So sometimes I get put on the back burner because of that. That's one of them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
That's
you just have
probably
to
a
learn
good
to adjust. Yeah,
you
that you're
do.
not the number one priority until you're part
Yeah.
of the family.
It's family first for them always. Another thing, the language barrier, obviously. Latinos are very superficial. They care about their looks big time. Like, it's priority to make sure tut everything is.
Yeah, one of the things my ex-wife, when she would get ready for in the morning, I used to have to get my kid ready for school and keep her completely separate from her mom. Otherwise, it was like fucking World War III in my house. So there was a makeup table or whatever that we had in her master bedroom that she had to get ready for, and it would take her about an hour to get ready. But while she was getting ready, I had to make sure my kid got off to school. And if my kid had any questions for mom or anything, it was, you can't bother mom during that time. She's getting her makeup on, she's getting her war paint on, And I remember every morning I had to like keep them separated. Otherwise it was like World War III in my house when that would happen. So yeah, Latino women definitely for the most part have to get put on their war paint, their makeup.
I got a
on,
funny
so.
story for you. So
I like this.
yeah, this is funny. So my girl was with me. We were here, and she needed a new suitcase. So I got her a new suitcase. So we're leaving my house. We're flying to Vegas, and I grab the handle, and we're going down the steps on the patio, and the handle rips out of it on the end, but it's still on the side. It's still good, and the thing still pulls up. So I mean, everything's fine. I'm a Youper at heart. You are. I don't know how Wayne is, but I'm assuming when this handle comes off, what do you think?
Tape it back. We'll figure it out later or something to
Yeah.
that effect.
It came from Colombia. So it's like, okay, it just ripped. I throw it in the garbage and we're going to Vegas. I don't care. It's just a handle. It's not a big
Right.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. End
She
of the
lost her
world.
shit.
Oh, no. She didn't lose it. She's just, oh, baby, now what? It's ruined. I'm like, no, the other handle's still fine. It still works. Like, it's just a plastic handle. It's not a big
Yeah, it's
deal.
just a piece of it. It's not
You're
the whole.
short.
It's not
You
the
can't even
essence of
pick
the
it up by
suitcase.
that anyway. Like, you can, oh, we're in Vegas and she wants to go shopping. So I give her some money to go shopping. She says, I'm going to get a new suitcase. I'm like, you get a new suitcase and there's going to be problems. I said, there's nothing wrong with that one. What do you think she comes back with? Huh?
New suitcase.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was mad. I was pretty pissed off about it. But
Was it
that
was it
wouldn't
a good
look
looking
good.
suitcase though?
Yeah,
She
it was
came back
better.
with?
I wouldn't have cared either way. But
Right.
that thing being ripped off the end, she would look cheap if she came home with that suitcase and that handle isn't on there where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't happy, but It's $100 suitcase. Who cares?
Yeah, I was married to a Latina for 19 years. Trust me, if there was a dent in the car, she'd bitch and moan, and you got to get that fixed. You look like blah blah blah. Yeah, I get that now.
You
know,
understand?
yeah, the best part, like I remember this is side story of why my wife is my unicorn. Living in rural country, we take our trash to the dump trailer and throw it in the dump trailer, and then once a week we got guys who haul stuff to the dump all the time. So we go there, and the trash had been sitting in my garage for, I don't know, more longer than it should have. Usually it sits there maybe a day, but I don't know what the hell happened. But there's, bugs in the trash or whatever. But I didn't realize that until we were at the dump trailer and I'm throwing them out and she's helping me empty the trash. And then, we see the maggots or whatever on the floor thing, and we wipe them off and clean them off or whatever in the car, and she doesn't lose her shit at all. And I look at her and I say, this is reason 4,237 why you're my fucking unicorn. She goes, why? I said my previous wife would have lost her shit on me for at least 20 minutes about that. I said, you just like wiped them off like a farm girl, because her dad does cattle farming as a hobby, just wiped them off and was like, whatever. I'm not gonna let it ruin my day. But yeah, there's I feel you there. So
if there are any women who watch this, I don't know how many will, but let me say this one thing. If you want your man to just be your rock, continue to provide, show him appreciation. That's all I cared about ever, and rarely got it. I just want to hear a thank you. Wow, thank you. When I work on the road, I used to come home. My daughter was 6, 5, 7 years old, and I'd walk through that door. She would run and jump into my arms. And that's the best thing ever. And if you can just show your man that once in a while, don't overdo it, but like just show appreciation. That's all you got to do.
I tell my thing is all you got to do for men is you got to feed them, keep their stomach full, keep their balls drained, and then leave them at peace. You do those three things, you're never going to get a divorce. My wife said to me the other day, she goes, I listen to your podcast. I know what you say.
We're not the smartest species either at all. Like you got to bludgeon us over the head with a clue before we'll know, We're not the best at reading a woman. Like, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Everything's wrong.
Well, that's some great advice. So Jeff, we have a tradition here on the podcast where we ask you a question for the next guest, and you don't know who the guest is, you don't know what the topic is, and we also ask you a question that the last guest left for you. So the previous guest had a question, so we're going to put you on the spot here a little bit. And the question is, if you can choose to know your future or change something from the past, which would you choose? I know that's pretty
deep.
difficult. Yeah, it's a deep question.
If I could know my future or change something from my past,
which one would you do and why?
Well, I think the past, because I can alter the future that way.
All right.
That would be my choice, I think.
Fair enough.
Anything specific about the past you would change, or just yeah?
Yeah, I would buy some Bitcoin at $1.
That's what the last guest said too about Bitcoin. He was basically saying if it would hit 500, if it's going to hit 500K or not. He wanted to know the future.
That's funny thing about this crypto stuff. That we've all had Bitcoin. I had 3 of them at one time, and I don't have them anymore because I was buying and selling them. And you just don't know where the lid is where the top is at. What's the ceiling? Nobody
I was
knows.
thinking about this in perspective, right? The house that I was thinking about selling, my walkaway price would be about, like, after taxes and everything, 125,000, or AKA one fucking Bitcoin. I just think about that and I'm like,
wild.
What the fuck is this world coming to, man? Like,
right?
What?
Yeah.
This is just crazy. But yeah, it's funny that you say I'd want to, go back and buy Bitcoin at $1. I had a guy who I played League of Legends with every day, and he was a pharmaceutical sales rep. And he said to me when Bitcoin was at $200, Josh, he's like, let's just both put 10 grand into it. He goes, we're either going to be $10,000 broke, or we're going to be fucking gazillionaires. And I was like, what? I'll pass. Who wants to fucking tell that kind of story? Yeah, I wish I would have I mean, I didn't have 10 grand lying around at the time, but I wish I would have just had like 5 and been like,
Yeah.
fuck it. Yeah, let's do it. But
Did you
no,
guys watch Matiso's doc? The
Mhm.
later
I did.
it was
I was a little disappointed in it. There is some interesting moments that I took that were kind of like epiphanies. Like, hey, guess what? People who are grinders, whether they're high stakes grinders or they're grinding 2.5 no limit or 5.5 PLO, they go through struggles. Like, there's a part in the fucking movie or documentary where he's borrowing $50,000 from Daniel Negreanu to play tournaments. And it's like he's borrowing that money because his family told him no. Whether he's positive or negative, I don't fucking know. But the point is all grinders go through struggles at some point. No matter how good you are in your career, you're going to go through a struggle eventually. So
yeah.
Mhm.
that's one big thing that I took from that documentary. That
Well,
and he
that's
has
the
a really bad back.
I think that's part of the problem with being a professional poker player is like nobody understands it. I'm not a professional by any means. I'm just a rec. And when you're probably a professional at it, now I don't know if you guys are full time or not. I don't know. I'm assuming you are, Josh. I don't know about Wayne.
Yes.
But like if you hit that downswing and it's 6 months, a year long,
Bro.
times can get really, yeah, I know that they go hard. Like, my friends and I talk about, well, I've been running bad for 3 months. Like, and I tell them, like, you don't even understand. Like, we play once a week and you're pissed off because you have 12 losing sessions. Like, could you imagine
Oh, yeah,
being a
going to
tournament
work and
grinder
getting your
having a
teeth.
year
Oh,
long
I
stuff?
can't. I
No,
cannot imagine being a tournament grinder. Like, just
me either.
fuck that. But even as a cash grinder, there are times when you look at your chart and you're like, holy fuck, I've had 14 sessions and 11 of them have been losers. Like, holy shit, the ones that have been winners haven't even been that significant. Or, and when I coach students, especially if they're doing it full time, or they have a desire to do it full time, I always have to have a conversation with them explaining that your family is not going to really understand what you do for 5 to 10 years. They just won't. They just really don't understand. So like last week I went down to Green Bay for one day, played some Parliament Omaha. I had a really good session. I won like $3,000 in like 3 hours. Maybe it was like 4 hours. And I came back. I think the next night I lost like 2,300 online or something. And my dad goes, "Oh, how'd you do in Green Bay?" I'm like, "Well, I made a livable wage." And he's like, "Well, your wife said you won a couple $1,000s." And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "But I lost 2,300 online." I
Yeah.
said, "So for the whole week, I made 700." Now, given some weeks I'm going to make 3 grand, 5 grand, 10 grand, but yeah, it varies. Like when you do it long enough, you understand that unless you're sweating your bankroll, which hopefully you're not, but if you've been doing it long enough, hopefully you're at a point where you're not sweating your bankroll constantly, where you're
I've never
constantly
been that bad.
well,
It's
but
never been that way for me. It just hasn't. And I'm not,
yeah,
and that's
well,
not a
when you're
brag.
doing it for a living though,
Yeah.
there's different levels when you're doing it for a living. So like when you first start off doing it for a living, your first 5 years, you're going to be sweating your bankroll a lot more, where you're determining what your buy-in is because of your bankroll. Where, for example, if I go buy into a cash game for 5 grand or 10 grand and I lose, yeah, it sucks, but it's not going to change what I'm going to continue to grind on, you
Hence the
know?
word bankroll.
Yeah. But it's something that your family just doesn't understand because you can win 3,000 in a night and then the next night lose 2,000 and your family will go, "Well, you shouldn't have just played the night that you lost 2,000." And it's like, I got it all in with top set, and the guy hit a gut shot. Like, wow, you can't even
They don't
explain that to
understand
him.
that.
You just go, yeah,
So
I don't know.
I
Eventually,
think
you
you
get to
know
a
about,
point where you say okay, no matter what they say. You just go, like,
yeah,
even if you know it's 100% wrong, you just go, okay,
yeah. I think you know about my success at the WSOP, right? I don't know if Wayne does. My
go
big
on,
score.
No,
Or maybe
no,
you
I didn't
don't.
hear.
Thank you, Josh.
go on.
Well, I had
I
a
think
third place. I had a third place in a 1K.
Wow.
Yeah, Deeb actually knocked me out. But when people go to you like, "Oh, you're rich," I'm like, "No, I'm not. I had 32% sold, and I got to pay taxes on that money. Like it's not what
Mhm.
you think it is, you know?
Well, now this was third place in a 1K Hold'em.
Yeah, NL,
Oh,
yeah.
so you had that must be a big chunk. What was it, like
That
3
was
to
my biggest
5?
bet, 112.
112. Okay, that's
Yeah.
still a huge chunk.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
sun
and
run
then
too.
but
Sunrun.
you sold 33% of it, so your net's 77, and then you got to pay the taxes on the 112, or are you charging that
No,
to the
no, 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 no.
33% as well?
No, I'm gonna send W-2s to all the guys. I
Yeah,
paid,
send 1099s. Yeah.
yeah, or W
Mhm.
1099s. Yeah, that's what my accountant told me to do, so that's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, everybody, oh, it's 112. Like that's a lot of money. Well,
Yeah,
don't
you're like,
forget
no,
my
it's like 77, and then taxes after that. So you're like, it's more like you go 60,
and
you
the
know?
10K I bought in on the main 2 days later. Like, don't forget, and the 2K I
Well, you can
lost at the
deduct,
PLO event.
you can, right now, you can deduct 100% of that. Starting next
Yeah,
year, though, you're only going to be able to deduct 90%. And
that's not going to
here,
affect me a whole lot.
right. Here's what I told Wayne. I said my prediction is that's not going to affect $600 1K
No,
tournaments, like all these tournaments that have these guarantees. You're
nope.
still like the recreational player. They don't give a shit about that. I said, but what you are going to see
The
is
high
you're going to
rollers.
see a shitload of less high rolling tournaments. You're not
Yep,
going to see $100,000 buy in tournaments like they're fucking
yep.
like they're candy bars at a goddamn convenience store. You know, and the worst part about it is, and I will say there was a pro that posted something on X the other day that I can greatly appreciate. I don't remember the pro's name, but he was explaining why the high stakes market is more like an investment, like a portfolio manager. And he had like a 2-minute advertisement, and I was like watching it, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, I really appreciate this guy's argument. There's some of it that I have some issues with, but he's like, hey, anytime you're dealing with a high stakes player, you're dealing with basically a portfolio manager because they're getting backed by so many different people. And I thought that
Yeah,
was an interesting take on it. So it's like, okay, so you're basically just an asset manager or a portfolio manager, and you're managing your performance against it. Congratulations. I don't know if I'd really call that a professional gambler. Like,
that
I mean,
10,
it is, but that's no different than being a day trader on the stock market. You could
it
say those
isn't.
guys are professional gamblers too.
They are. That 10% doesn't mean jack to you, me, and Wayne. Well, I got news for you. Alex Foxen
Oh
and his
yeah.
wife.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the guys who are buying in to huge amounts of tournaments is going to
There we go.
decrease
I
quite
lost you guys for a
substantially.
second.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, the high stakes community is going to be impacted on it quite
Yeah,
dramatically.
yeah,
But for smaller buy-in tournaments, I think tournaments that are 25, like 2,500 and less, because I've played quite a few 2,500 and 3Ks, and they are a little bit more pro heavy. Like you start getting 4 out of 8 that are pros versus 2 out of 8. But yeah, in the 10Ks, which I've played as well, you do get a lot more pro heavy in that as well. So
Yeah.
are you
Looks like
there?
we lost. I think we lost Jeff there.
We lost Jeff. Well, we had a great conversation with him. And so maybe it was just time for him to go. But I thought he was bringing up some great points about dating international women. I think it's ironic that we've had a couple of guests now who are that's what they've resulted to because they're just fed up with, I guess, American women. And they're like, yeah, the nice thing I liked about what Jeff said is the best thing about dating an international woman and the worst thing was their family values. So I like how it was both the positive and the negative there.
Yep. Yep. And as I mentioned, Bibi, my wife, is from Guyana. She was there her first 13 years and then moved to this country. So it wasn't something that I went into saying, hey, I'm going to date someone from a different country. But as I mentioned a couple of times on this podcast, I worked in an office of 50 people. And I want to say maybe 40 of the people in the office were from different countries. So it was a sales job. We worked, I don't know, 70, 80-hour week. So you really didn't have time to date outside of work because you're just always at work. And I had a couple hour drive one way. So it just kind of happened. But as I mentioned to Jeff, I think it's really cool that he stepped out of his comfort zone a little bit. I mean, obviously, chatting or dating someone that doesn't even speak the same language with you, that obviously is pretty challenging. But it sounds like he's happy and doing pretty well with it.
I think it probably keeps you young too. When you're in your 50s and you're dating somebody who doesn't speak the language, it gives you like a new challenge to look forward to. Like, I didn't even get what his girlfriend's name was, but we did get a message since he did disconnect of what his next question would be for all of those viewers and listeners is if you could ask a deceased loved one thing, what would it be?
Wow, that's a really good I feel like the questions have gotten
My
increasingly
God.
better and better every single time,
And I don't
which is
even know
great.
how that happens. Yeah, like when we hear that, I'm just like, wow, that's even more deep than the previous one. So, but if you guys do want to be a guest on the podcast, or if you have a topic of discussion that you would like to bring to our attention, please feel free to email us down below at support@suckitupman. And as always, guys, we are going to be live on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on all platforms. Wayne, would you like to wrap us up with anything else?
Yeah, so I definitely want to answer the question that Jeff left, and I would probably ask my grandfather. The last conversation I had with my grandfather is he essentially took me into his room and he said, "Hey, we had gotten into an argument a little bit before I was 16, and he was going to take me out driving, and I was going through a growth spurt, and I basically slept through the time that we were going to go out driving, and it didn't happen. And we got into an argument, but he took me into his room and he said, you know, Wayne, I'm not always going to be around, but I just want you to take care of your mother and take care of your sister. I mean, my dad's still around, but he worked a lot, and he basically just told me, hey, make sure you take care of everyone. And that unfortunately was the last conversation I had with him. And if I could go back or now ask him a question, I would just say, how have I done? I took your advice. One, I would probably ask him how he knew that, right? Because it was something that I still take to me with this to this day is he almost knew, like the way he
How
asked
old
that.
was he when he
So he passed away, I believe he was in his early 70s, so maybe like 70, 73, 74. And it's still crazy to me that he almost knew that something was going to happen. The way that we had gotten to a big argument, I didn't think we were going to chat, and then he just called me in his room and told me this, and then that just ended up being the last conversation we had. So I would really ask him how I've done and really how he knew that. I guess hopefully I have many years to go, but I'm wondering if you get up there in age and you're getting closer to the end, I wonder if people actually know that maybe their time is running. I mean, obviously if you're like a cancer patient or something and doctors tell you, hey, you have a week to live, what have you, but he was pretty healthy, didn't have really that many problems. I'm wondering if maybe when it's getting close to being up.
Well, this is where some of my different beliefs or things of that nature come into play, where I think some people are more connected to the spiritual world than others. And I think those who are, I believe, can sense when they're closer than others. Like I have a unique, I don't really want to call it like an ability, but I have a unique sense to tell when somebody's on death's door. I don't really go into detail about that. I know a month before my brother died, I had a conversation. I'll never forget it. We were at the kitchen table and I remember screaming at him and absolutely screaming at him at my mom's house. And my mom came in and she goes, "What are you yelling at him for?" And I said, "He has about a month to go." I said, "He's going to be dead in a month, Mom." I said, "And I'm telling you this because you need to sit down and have a conversation with your son and tell him everything you want to tell him before he goes." And I could just sense it of my brother. And I remember very vividly calling my other brother and telling him. And then I remember calling my dad and telling him. And then I called my other brother. And it was like I had a conversation with my brother who was dying at the kitchen table. And keep in mind, he had some issues. He wasn't like dying on his deathbed, but we were just
Mhm.
having breakfast. But I remember I said everything to him and he was very grateful and very thankful. And I said, "You know why I'm having this conversation with you, don't you?" And he goes, "Because you can sense death upon me." And I said, "Yeah." And he was very closely connected to the spiritual world as well. And I don't think I've ever told that story to you or anybody, but I think those who are connected a little bit more in that sense have the ability to know that their time is closer than they care to admit, and I think they can sense it. So maybe You said this was your grandfather when he was in his early 70s and he was in fairly good health.
Yeah, he had an irregular heartbeat that he took some medication for, but I don't think no one really expected him to drop dead the next day. He was fairly healthy, and yeah,
Wait, he died like 24 hours.
24 hours later. Yeah. So we had that conversation that night. I was upstairs eating breakfast, and all I heard was my aunt scream at the top of her lungs because my grandfather basically just like slunched back in the recliner that he was in, and the ambulance came and they said he died on the way to the ambulance. So yeah, it was probably about 12 hours later.
Well, do you think your grandfather would tell you that you've done a good job?
I think so. I've always cared for my sister. She's 4.5 years younger than me. We just got back from a trip together. My mom, I've always looked after her. We've gotten into some different arguments. You've met her a couple times. She's very unique, to put it bluntly, but we've had our ups and downs.
Your mother's a very lovely woman. Absolutely. Every time I come
Yeah.
over there, if I'm coughing, she offers me a throat lozenge, and
Yep.
she always looks out for people in the best interest. So
Yeah,
a
so
super
I
good
think-
soul. And yeah, your sister's doing well too. She does real estate. So yeah, I think your grandfather would definitely approve.
I think
That's
so.
how I feel about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a good way to wrap it up. And as Josh said, if you want to be on the podcast, our email will be down below. We're live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.